If you're new, then a very big hello. My name is Louise. Now, so many of you have asked me what marks I got for my IELTS test. Now, if you haven't watched it already, I did upload a video 2 weeks ago talking through my IELTS test during the pandemic. So I talked about how we turned up early, they let us in early. I walked through the session of speaking, then listening, then reading, and then writing. I literally talked through my whole IELTS test experience from start to end. If you haven't watched it yet, then I highly recommend you go watch it. I will leave it in the eye and I'll also leave it down the description box. For anybody that's feeling a bit worried or a bit anxious about the day, then I definitely break it down. It's about a 40-minute video, I apologize. It was just so much I wanted to cram in there and tell you about it. I told you I think each section was hard or easy. I told you what questions I got so you could mentally prepare yourself for other questions similar, and I know some of you said it was really useful for the people that are going to be taking it in the next few weeks or months or even next year. If you are someone that is very anxious about the test, then please go check out that video because I talked through my whole experience from start to end. Now, once I have released that video, then all of you guys have been messaging me asking me if I've had my results yet, and I actually received my results 3 days after my exam, which is super fast. Now, I did take the computer-based general IELTS test. Now, there are two different tests. There's either the general test or the academic test. I'm going for my PR in express entry, so I had to take my general test, and then there's two options within that general test. It is the paper test or the computer-based test, and I took the computer-based test. I will go on throughout this video and talk about why I chose the computer-based test. And also I did take it in Brantford, Ontario. So I just want to let you know I have not took this test in any other province, any other city. So I can't compare where it is, if it's different or the same. So I am talking about Brantford, Ontario. Please let me know down in the description box if you have took it somewhere else, and if it is similar, I would actually love to know. So today I'm going to be sharing you my results, my feedback, how I got my results, and then we are going to go on to a Q&A at the end. I had a question box over on my Instagram. If you're not following me, make sure you go follow me. It's louisewarearmstrong, because I always get you guys involved with my videos. And I asked you if any of you guys had any questions, anything that you were worried about the test. And oh my goodness, you poured through and you had so many questions. So I'll be answering those at the end of the video, so make sure you stay tuned. So 3 days after my exam, I was in bed and I found out you can find your results online, believe it or not. So the website is results.IELTSessentials.com. You type in your username that you had on the day, your first and last name, and also your date of birth, and then your results just pop up. Now, I didn't know if this was true or not. I didn't know if this was like an accurate website. I just found it on Google. So I was really scared that I was getting my hopes up to this score, and then in the post came my actual scores and it was nothing the same. But I can tell you now, everything on this website was the exact mark I had, and I luckily didn't have to wait too long because I found this website, like I said, 3 days after my test. When I looked at this website, 1 hour later, my certificate comes through in the post with my marks on. I think these are our results.
Well done.
Oh.
Did I get a better score than you?
No, we got the same score. So yeah, it was just super exciting. So we're going to start off. The first section was my speaking test. Like I said in my video 2 weeks ago, I actually loved my speaking test. I thought it went really well, and that definitely reflected in my mark. I got my full marks for that. I got 9 on speaking, and my explanation was test takers at this band can typically speak fluent and at a natural speed. It then said with only rare repetition or self-correction. Hesitant is to find ideas and not to find words or grammar, which is very important. Like I explained in that video, I did hesitate a few times. Due to my dyslexia, I do stutter. When I am thinking of an answer or thinking of what to say, I kind of say a lot, or or I tend to stutter, you should see my edits on my videos. Oh my goodness, the amount of times I just pause and stutter is ridiculous. So I am so happy they recognised it was because I was hesitant on the words and the ideas of the question rather than the grammar. Like, my words and my speech and my grammar was fluent. So I'm glad they picked up on that, because that was one thing I was really scared about. They then go on to say they use a wide range of natural vocabulary to discuss all topics. They can use a wide range of accurate grammar structures with only very rare and natural errors. Pronunciation is natural and clear at all times. Now, if you didn't know, during the pandemic you do have to wear your mask throughout the whole of the speaking test, which is another thing I was very anxious about, whether they're going to be able to understand and hear me properly. But I just over exaggerated slightly my words so they could hear me, and they definitely picked this up on my comments, saying that I was very clear, very easy to understand, and overall I was really happy with this mark. Like, I couldn't get a higher mark, so I'm so happy that I got 9 for speaking. So for speaking I got 9. Now, underneath where it says your scores explained, it says advice to improve your score. On speaking it says NA, so basically they don't have any notes for me to improve my speaking, which is good. And now I'm going to move on to my reading. Now, the last time I took a dyslexia test was back in university, so that was about 5 years ago. Oh my goodness, when did I graduate university? I don't know. I'm gonna guess it was about 5 years ago, and my reading age was the age of a 12-year-old. Now, I'm not too shy to say that. I have other skills and I have other things that I'm good at, and reading is definitely not one of those things. So I was very nervous taking my reading test. In reading, unfortunately, I did get a very low score. I got a 6 for my reading. They are good at using their vocabulary knowledge to create the meaning, both within and across sentences, on a range of general topics and some specialized ones. They can understand meanings and have some ability to understand somewhat complex opinions and arguments. Now, for me, that just went right over my head. There was too many big words in there and I didn't quite understand. So this is where the advice to improve your score really comes in, because it tells you how you can improve your score. I think what they were trying to say in that first section is I can understand the text that they gave me, that it was an argumentative text. I understood the pros and the cons, but I just wasn't very good at maybe showing it completely. But it says, advice to improve your score, try to read different types of text, including general and academic text, not just in your subject area. Be aware of differences and adjust the reading strategies that you use depending on your text. Decide when to read carefully and when to read quickly. So I think I just didn't answer some of the questions correctly. I think maybe I got the wrong word. Like I said, with the reason text, I used the highlighter. So when it asked me a question on a type of fish, I would then go highlight that fish in that sentence and try to find the answer within that sentence. And maybe I didn't put the correct answer, but I was looking in the right place. So they're just telling me to go and analyze more text next time if I choose to take the test again. But overall, my reading was a 6. I wasn't really happy with it, but then I wasn't devastated. I thought I would get a lot less just because of my dyslexia. I got a 6 for reading. Now, for my writing, as soon as I finished and spoke to a few friends, I knew where I lost points straight away. Now, in writing, on the first section, you have to write 150 words, and in the second section, you have to write 250 words. Now, on that second section, I think I wrote about 700 words without realizing. So I think that's where I lost a few points, because you're supposed to stick to it. You are definitely not allowed to go under the word count, but you can't overgo the word count either by dramatically like I did. So that was my #1 mistake that I did, which next time, now I know, I won't do that again. But for writing, I got 6.5. It says, test takers at this band typically address all parts of the question, some more fully than others. Some details may be irrelevant or wrong. Test takers can arrange their ideas logically. They try to use less common words. They make some spelling mistakes, but the reader can still understand. They can write a mix of simple and complex sentences. Their grammar and punctuation mistakes do not usually cause difficulty for the reader. Now, that's me down to a T. I made hundreds of spelling mistakes and grammar mistakes because I am not very good at reading or writing. So advice to improve the score: practice writing to give information and make arguments. Make sure you cover all the points that you need to be covered. reread your work and see if you can make your points clearer. And that is exactly what I was on about when I said I wrote too many words. I think I didn't get my point across clearly. I just rambled a lot, which I do tend to do when I'm writing. I always look at it, if I write more words then I'm doing better, which isn't necessarily the point. They want you to answer the question, they want you to do it quickly, and they want you to do it to the point. Don't skip around the bushes and just get to the point nice and quickly. So overall, I got 6.5 for writing. Going on to listening now, I didn't think I did too bad in listening, just because I got the answers that I wanted. It's when it got near the end of the test and it got slightly harder, I did actually miss a few of the answers. I left them blank, which maybe I shouldn't have done. I should have just kind of guessed, and maybe I would have got extra points and got it right. But overall for listening, I got 7, so that was my second highest score below speaking. And they explained test takers at band 7 can typically follow extended speech and understand detailed instructions to complete tasks. Now it says my advice, listen to current affairs and documentary programs or online talks without pausing or repeating the recording. Try to remember as much as you can, including new words, main ideas, specific points and their relationship to each other. They're basically just asking me to listen to a speech and try and answer some questions I have in my head without rereading it. Now with the listening exam, you just listen to that piece of speech once, you can't go back over it. Now with my dyslexia, I do have short-term memory loss, which means if I listen to something 10 seconds later, 9 times out of 10 I won't remember. But I'm very good with long-term memory, like I remember things that happened yesterday and last week and last month. It's just short-term memory within the day that I do have problems with. So my overall mark for all of my tests was a 7. So I think the thing that brought down my mark was obviously my reading, when I got a 6. If I got a 6.5, then my overall would have been a 7.5. My immigration lawyer has told me if I want to get more points for the pool for CRS, then she does recommend me to retake the test. I am really happy with this mark, and it didn't mean that my points were lowered too much. If you've watched my IEC to PR video, you will know that I was estimated 507 points. Now re-evaluating it, I think I've got around 482. So if I do want to go up a bandwagon and get that 7.5 in my IELTS, then it will extend my points over to nearer 500 again. So this is something that I definitely need to think and take into consideration, but I will not do the test again unless I tell them I'm dyslexic, because I will just come out with exactly the same score again, I think. So now my score is out. Some of you will probably think that that's really low, but for me, like I said, I'm really happy with it. I'm now going to go across to some Q&As. I've just got them here on my laptop, so I apologise if I look down at all, but so many of you wanted to know lots of stuff. So someone said, can you go to the toilet during the test? Now I think this has come up a few times. A few people have actually messaged me before my test and said make sure you go to the toilet, because there is some points in the exam where you can't go to the toilet, and if you're desperate for the toilet, your mind is just thinking about getting through to go to the toilet and not on the test. Now I'm going to be honest, as soon as you enter the building and you get your picture taken, go to the toilet. Even if you don't need the toilet, go, because as soon as you walk to the speaking test, you cannot go to the toilet. You go straight into the room and you go straight to the speaking test. So as soon as you go in the building, you've registered, you've had your photo done, go to the bathroom, washroom, whatever you call it. In England, we call it toilet. You're also given like free bottles of water and some snacks if you've been there a long time. I just don't recommend drinking too much water, because like I said, if you started the listening test, you cannot go to the bathroom. What can you take in with you? Now this is a really important question, and this is one that I was really stressed about, because in the email it states once you enter the building, you cannot leave the building. If you leave the building, you cannot take the test that day. And it also states you cannot bring any belongings in with you apart from your passport. So I was scared if I brought my mobile phone with me, like my purse, they would tell me to leave it in the car, but once you leave the building, you no longer can re-enter. So Jake and I actually hid our purse and our wallet in the car, and we took our car keys in and our passport. That was it. We literally followed the rules because we didn't want to get chucked out. But at our location, you were actually allowed to take things in with you. They just recommended you don't. And what they do is they put it in a plastic see-through bag, like a shopping bag, and they tie a knot in, they stick your name on it, and then you have to put it against the wall outside the exam room. Like, you're not allowed to take it in the room with you, and you have to put everything in there: phones, keys. The only thing you're allowed on you is your passport. They even asked me to take my jumper off, and I was actually really cold taking the test, so I wish I wore long sleeves. Now, I can't promise that they'll tell you to take your jumper off everywhere. It was because mine was like more of a coat jacket, so they asked me to take it off and put it in this bag. So I literally just had a vest top on and my jeans and my passport, and that was it. Jake had to take his watch off. The next question was, where do you leave your belongings? I just said that, in a plastic bag against the wall outside the exam room. Is computer or paper-based easier? Now, obviously, I have never took a paper-based test. I've only took the computer one. So I personally, from my experience, can't tell you what is better. But I have spoke to people that watch my videos about paper tests, and I am so happy I took the computer-based test. There is a few reasons. For example, the paper test, you write it all on a piece of paper, and then you have to transfer your answers over onto the test paper, which obviously takes up time. On the computer, you get to type it, and if you've made mistakes, you can just hit it like back as quick as you can and retype it, and there's no time wasted in transferring your answers onto another sheet of paper. The second reason is on the writing test. Again, if you make mistakes in grammar, etc., spelling, you can go back at the end and just make sure you refine it. With the paper, there's a lot of rubbing out, and it's not as easy to change your mistakes. And the third reason is also in the writing test, they do a word count. Now, someone reached out to me and said they spent a lot of their last 10 minutes of their writing test counting the words, 150 words and 250 words on their writing test. But on the computer, there's actually a word count at the bottom. So every time you type, it tells you exactly how many words you have used so far, which I think is amazing. Like, you don't have to waste time counting those words and worrying about the words, because it tells you right there. How long did the test take in total? We were in the building for nearly 5 hours, which is just crazy, believe it or not. So yeah, it did take just around 5 hours. There were people in the room a lot longer than me, but I'll go on to that in my tips at the end of the video. So it is a very long day, so make sure you have a good breakfast, because obviously that you cannot take any food in with you, you cannot take any drinks in with you. They provide you bottles of water, and they give you little snack bars as well, but really that's everything they give you. How long did it take you to get your results? I mentioned this at the start. So for the computer-based test, when you leave, they state it takes 2 to 3 business days, and it did do that. On the 3rd day, we got our certificates through the post, and also you can see it online. I have heard that paper tests do take slightly longer. Some people have waited up to 2 weeks for their results, so maybe that's another positive. The computer-based test is because they can mark it there and then on the computer, instead of going around and hand marking it, and it takes slightly longer. So you only have to take 2 to 3 business days to hear back for your results, which is amazing. Can you ask for water? Yes, like I just said, you can ask for water. Once you go to the computer room, they do actually offer you a bottle of water in the venue that I was in. What about if you're dyslexic? So many of you know that I was dyslexic. I've brought it up in this video a few times. So where I was taking my test, you had to let them know 6 weeks before so they could put in place the things that they need to accommodate you, which is fair enough. But when I booked my test, I was taking it in 3 weeks. So that's one of the reasons why I didn't tell them as well, because I didn't have enough time to let them know. Also on the website, what they're to accommodate people with dyslexia was some of the things that wouldn't actually help me. It was like changing of the screen, changing of the font, someone there to read the answers. Now those things don't actually help my disability. My disability is all about spelling and my short-term memory and things like that. So That's another reason why I didn't go ahead and tell them I was dyslexic, because the things that they had in place for people with dyslexia wouldn't have suited my disability and what I would need. And that is why my immigration lawyer told me to reach out to them to say, if I'm taking it again, this is what I need, and see if they would be able to help me in that way. So if you're someone that's going through what I'm going through and would like to know the answer of that, then definitely let me know. You can private message me over on Instagram if you don't want to tell everyone in the comments, and I will let you know what the reply's saying, because maybe I will email them, who knows. So I'm just going to end the video now on some tips that I have. It's not going to be many tips, I just want to add this on to the end of the video. So my first tip, and like I said, I don't know about other venues, I'm just talking about Brantford, Ontario, but I would personally book a later slot. Now the reason I say this, we booked ours for just after lunch between 1:50 and 2. We obviously went into the room earlier. Once we reached the computer room, which is after our speaking test, I was speaking to a gentleman who was from Turkey to the side of me, and his test was at 10 AM. And once he took the speaking test, he had to sit in the computer room for the next 3 hours waiting for every single person to take their speaking test and to come up to the room. So we all took the listening, reading and writing test together, and if you were the first people to enter the room, you have to wait for the last people to take the test, which is just crazy, and I personally think really unorganized. They should do it in time slots so they don't have to wait that long. Like I said, this gentleman to the side of me was waiting nearly 3 hours for us all to take our speaking test, and I just turned up, I took my speaking test like that. We went into the room, I waited 20 minutes and it was go. Jake literally was one of the last person to take the speaking test. As soon as he entered the room, that's it. We took our test near enough straight away. So we was in the room for just under 5 hours, as some of these people were in there for nearly 10 hours, which just blows my mind. Wear a jumper dependent on the weather. What I mean by jumper is something like this, which they won't make you take off. Like I said, I had a zip up, so it more looked like a jacket, and you can't wear jackets into the room. So if you're someone who's going in the winter and you don't like being cold, definitely wear like a hooded jumper that they won't make you take off. And the third one is go to toilet when they ask you, do you need to go to the toilet, and as much as you can, because like I said, there are certain times throughout the exam where you're not allowed to leave the room, and if you're someone that needs to go to toilet and pee when you're nervous a lot, then you don't want to be sat thinking about peeing rather than the test. So when they say this is now a chance to go to the washroom, take it, because you might regret it later. Okay, so we've now reached the end of our video. I hope you're all well and safe. I hope you enjoyed it, and make sure you hit the thumbs up. And if you're new here, I would love you to hit subscribe. I do day off vlogs every single Monday of my time here in Canada, and on Wednesday I upload information videos, and sometimes I upload a cheeky video on the Friday as well. But thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I will see you all soon. Bye.